guys, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about episode 6 of Limetown and kind of walk through some of the questions on here and just kind of help you with some of the responses you need to give. So I'm going to present and go through that. All right, so this is the first page of the assignment. So basically up here, you're just kind of making some notes on who Lenore is as a person, her role in Limetown, some extra notes. So when we get down here, it says answers to old questions and then new questions. So basically when you're, what you type down here where it says answers to old questions, that basically is like where we're gonna be writing what new information we learned. So for example, we didn't really know what happened to the survivors. We didn't know they're all kind of spread around. They're all very secretive. And we didn't know what the deal was, right? We know a lot of people went missing. So answers to old questions, one of the things would be that the survivors are people who were implanted in Limetown, and they were extracted using the caves, and they were given basically new identities. They were shipped kind of everywhere throughout the world. So that way it kind of was kept more under wraps. And then we also learned what happened to the people who didn't survive. So I'll let you guys figure that out on your own. So basically some answers, what happened, tell me about the survivors. Tell me about the people who didn't have the implant, what happened. You can talk about what we learned about Emil, Leah's uncle. We learned something about him. He was the man they were all there for, right? We learned that he was able to do something naturally. So he had special gift. And so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but that's something that we learned. We kind of understand his role way better. We also learned, why the panic happened, right? Think about how Oscar, the folder, right? What Lenore was there to do, what she offered. So basically what did Oscar do that kind of caused the panic to happen? Things like that. And then, so we also learned that something about Sylvia, right? And the answers to old questions. So then, but new questions that come up. So what do we now have new questions about based on this episode? So some of the answers to the old questions kind of lead to new questions. So for example, we learned, what happened with Sylvia. So the new question could be, where is she now? Another new question could be, what are they doing with Leah? Where are they taking her? What happened? Things like that. Where's Emil? Right? There's a lot of new questions that we could even ask, does Leah have the special gift like Emil does? So there's a lot of different things you could say, but that's just kind of you might think of things on your own that, people might not think of. So that one's that. And so then in here, so there's a lot of things in this episode that are really suspenseful. The first thing it asks about is how it's recorded live. So usually what Leah does is she has an interview and she talks to the person, and then each episode she kind of can narrate a little bit, this is when I talked to Max, or this is when I talked to Warren, and she can kind of go back and narrate and explain things. But when something's live, it's riskier, right? Because it's in the moment, the audience is experiencing things with Leah. There's no filter. There's no going back and editing it to make sure anything that's too much or overwhelming can be cut out, right? And also it's also suspenseful that it's live because it was a condition that Lenore made. She said the only way we'll do this is if it's live. So that can also add some suspense to, the live episode or the live aspect of the episode. And then it says, what two other features of this episode also contribute to the development of suspense, and explain. So don't think about it too deeply. Just think about in general, what things add suspense. So you can think about where Leah is during this interview, right? Is it a public place where, there's people around, or is it, kind of more private, which makes it more dangerous, right? Where is she at? What does Lenore have Leah do on her before she sits down? And then think about what Lenore does while they're talking. So there's something that she sets something, and Leah kind of asks what is this for? And she's don't worry about it. And so the whole time we can hear that in the background, and it's definitely adding suspense because we don't know what's going to happen at the end of it. We don't know why it's there. until the end. And Leah doesn't know either. So Leah usually has more control, but when it's live, she has, very little control over how the information is let out to the public and let out to us. And then, so these questions, they should be pretty self-explanatory. So for number 4, how and why is Leah in danger? So you can answer that part pretty explicitly, right? What does she say? Like, why is Leah the one that, they need? Who's there to get her? And then what did the timer count down to? We might not know that answer exactly, right? We can say, well, Lenore ended up doing this at the end of the timer. Or we could say they ended up doing this to Leah, but we don't know. We might not know exactly like what it is they're doing or where she's going or what's going to happen. So you might not have a super explicit answer to that. And then number 5, this is where you just get to put your opinion. What's your feelings on the ending of the first season? So this is the last episode we'll be doing. So if you have any questions, just feel free to join the virtual meet, or you can send an email to me. But yeah, have a great week and let me know if you need anything.